our next panel. And next up is the ISD Technology Directors and Officers. Scott, I believe you're next.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Floyd. I'm the Director of Instructional Technology for White Oak Independent School District. And just for the sake of understanding where I'm coming from, you need to understand that I am the entire Instructional Technology Department for White Oak Independent School District. So our adoption process in our district consists of a full team effort. It works with our curriculum director, with me, with our tech director, and then our teachers. Our teachers actually get together collaboratively and decide which books they would like to adopt. We do not make them adopt by campus or by grade level, or we do by grade level, but not by campus, not by district. So we do have multiple publishers on each campus, but we want them to utilize the resources they feel best suit their instructional processes in their classroom and for their students that they have. That being said, that means we run into some of the same issues that you've heard about this morning. The first of which is interoperability. It takes time to get all those accounts set up, and being able to utilize some of the, for lack of a better term, the single sign-on tools that are out there. For instance, Clever is a free one for school districts. There are some that are paid services. Being able to utilize those where they connect directly to our student information system, and then it'll create those accounts for us automatically. As an example, there was one publisher, and we only had to set up 3 grade levels with the one publisher, which for us is roughly 350 kids. And it took my tech director and I working together 2 hours to be able to get the data file uploaded. They had some basic tools missing from their upload process. For instance, account duplication. So now when teachers go in, it would not let us upload those accounts. So we had to manually go find them. But yet when the teachers go in, they see as many as 4 or 5 accounts for the student. So that's an issue on their end. That's nothing we can overcome because we don't get to control their database. It just is very time consuming for our instructional staff to assign textbooks to students. That's also another lengthy process that's unnecessary, where they give us a code that we have to turn around and give the teacher a code that they use, and they turn around and use that code to get the student a code, which is still a very lengthy 10 or 12 character code that the student has to put in to access that textbook or those resources. Device compatibility. I don't want to say that anybody lied to us this year. I would like to say there were quite a few inaccuracies that we go through those questions when we do our textbook adoption. Are you HTML5 compliant, meaning will you work across all devices? We list specifically the devices that we utilize in our district. We've been a BYOD, Bring Your Own Device District, for 7 or 8 years now. And we have just recently started doing a one-to-one with Chromebook in the last couple of years, although we've had Chromebooks for a number of years, as well as iPads, as well as Windows netbooks, as well as Mac books. So you see we have a lot of devices locally. We want to make sure those resources work on all of them, and that was one of the first questions we asked every one of them, so we could share that with the teacher. Before they adopted, they would see that they would have no issues or what issues they would run into. And we were, on many instances, told, yeah, we are completely HTML5 compliant. You won't have those issues with us, to which we found out fairly soon into the process that wasn't accurate. And we are still working with those publishers to try to work out those issues. Accessibility and portability, those 2 things go hand in hand for us. I heard some of the vendors earlier talking about the fact that the kids who are offline need access to that content, and they do, regardless of the device they have. For instance, my son spent 15 hours on a bus last week on a round trip to San Antonio for the state marching contest. He needed access to his resources so he could do the work that the teacher still assigned, even though they were in the contest, so he wouldn't be behind when he got back. The companies that failed to have the offline resources, my son did what most kids do these days. He whipped out his cell phone, took pictures of textbook pages and web pages so he would have those resources available to him on the trip. Our students shouldn't have to do that, and not all of our students have the ability to do that because they don't have the resources of a cell phone with a camera necessarily. The other thing, too, is that we prefer to have, I heard the discussion as well about having the book, print book, versus having electronic resources. That is one of the things that we recommend from in all of our adoptions, is that whatever resource they choose, they have a PDF version as well. We also do buy class sets of textbooks if that comes with it. So that way, for those students who have those learning styles or those learning preferences, they do have access to that. What we did find out this year is that we would have to pay the same price. I did hear something that confused me earlier, is that schools didn't want digital only, and that's not true because we did want that. But we were told, well, it's the same price whether you do digital only or get the textbooks. We're just going to give you a textbook for every kid. And we ended up with a textbook for every kid, even though we didn't want that. So I'd seen graphics about how many resources sit unused, and we have those because that was not an option for us to be digital only in the instances we wanted that. So I want to share that a little bit with you, and I know during the Q&A part you might have some more specific questions.
Hello, my name is Karen Fuller, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Klein Independent School District. We're a district in North Harris County. Today, we support over 50,400 devices in our district, and we have a student population of, actually we have computing devices of 48,000 and a student population of over 50,400 students. We've had a very successful one-to-one program for a number of years. We started this program with 4 high schools, an intermediate campus, and a dropout prevention program, high school dropout prevention program. It's been a very successful program. Klein has also, back in 2004, decided to put digital devices in the classroom. So we established what we called a 21st century classroom in 2004, where we put a data projector, a minimum of 2 student computers, e-instruction polling devices, a teacher presentation station. So in 2004, we began the use of using technology in all of our curriculum areas. Our teachers, with the beginning of this adoption, our teachers said, you know, to use this, we've got to be able to integrate it, and we've got to have staff development. So when we talked about devices, we wanted to be able to use all devices, laptops, tablets, convertible tablets, telephones, all the phones that were available in 2004. And as you heard earlier today, technology has changed since 2004. There's a lot of different tools that are out there for us to use. Today's students are expecting content that is current, interactive, and that can be accessed in a variety of ways. Our district began working in 2006 with our first one-to-one campus and said, from this point forward, we're going to adopt digital materials. Because if we're going to expect our students to use these devices, we need to have the digital content to go along with it. The device that we adopted used a digital pen. I know you've seen a lot of that today with the Surface. Well, we've been doing that since 2006. And that was quite challenging because the software and the content and the curriculum was not ready for that. So the reason we chose that is we wanted all of our students in those high schools to be able to take notes on the device, to be able to do their math, to be able to do manipulatives with science and save it, turn it in to the teacher, and let the teacher then evaluate it digitally and turn it back to the student digitally. So our students have been in that environment in quite some time. Today, if you walk into one of our high schools, you will see that the students are using their devices. The teachers are working with those students. Those students are using the pen to do their math, to highlight their English. So this morning we learned that the student still has to have that writing technique to absorb and to be a part of and engaged in learning. That was one of the reasons we went the direction we did. So we've been doing that quite some time. So the district said we've had some very good success with these one-to-one campuses. So what's our next step? So this year we're starting a 21st century student learning plan. And in the student learning plan, we also have implemented something called the Transform Academy. The Transform Academy is for all of our campus leaders and groups of teachers on those campuses to attend training. The campus principals are attending training through TASA, the Visioning Institute, that there's a call to action in school transformation about engaging the digital natives and new technologies and learning standards. The principals work with other leaders around the state as well as the leaders in our districts that are going through the Transform Academy and utilizing both digital instructional materials and devices. The teachers that are part of this academy work together to design what a transformed classroom should look like to meet the learning needs of the students of the 21st century. The transformed teachers include their work in the campus improvement plans and designing 21st century classroom models to increase student engagement. They're providing more hands-on projects and allowing the students to find their digital learning styles by utilizing more than one type of device. Because we're learning, it's not just one one device, one curriculum, one piece of material that's going to get that student engaged. With the Transform Academy, we're also, that's going to go along with that, we are implementing a one-to-one plan from grades 3 through 8. So not only now will we have it in our 4 high schools, but we'll have it in grades 3 through 8 over the next 5 years. The product that we're choosing is a Chromebook, but that Chromebook still has touch, and it still has the ability for the students to manipulate with some type of pen on it. So we're challenging the content providers, the web publishers, anything that goes on those devices to incorporate their products and use the pen or the handwriting technique that we use in our curriculum. So these devices are affordable, but we're still being challenged with content. So we've got content. We can go adopt different digital materials that are out there. But when we adopt those materials, the challenge is to implement those materials at different grade levels. And a lot of times we're forced to implement just one publisher or one piece of product. We can't take pieces and bits of those products and implement where they meet our student learning needs, where they meet where we need to be in our curriculum that meet the text that we're teaching. So with that, we're challenged with getting the curriculum, and then we have to integrate it into our systems. So we have a student learning management system. So we've got to integrate that curriculum into that management system and hope that all of those plug-ins work. You know, we talked about pipes earlier. What if we try to put this big pipe and this little pipe? Is it going to work together? Even to get the content connected to our student management system, our student learning systems. We also are challenged with web resources. Today, we use multiple devices. And I don't know if you have an iPhone and you've tried to access some web resources and it says, sorry, it cannot be accessed on this one. It has to move to another one. It's because of the not compatibility of those resources. We're also challenged with usernames. Klein ISD invested a lot of money in a single sign-on product, but we're making it happen because it wasn't available for us. So Klein ISD is doing everything that we can to be future ready for our students, both curriculum and instruction, both devices, so that these students, when they leave Klein ISD, they are future ready. They can be a productive citizen in any job that they choose. So my question now is the state of Texas future ready for what our students are asking of us?
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Kemper. I serve as the Director of Mathematics in Coppell ISD. More importantly, I am a proud product of Texas Public Schools. I have 2 children. One of them is in 1st grade in Texas Public Schools, and I'm very proud of her. And in 9 months, I'll have 1 more. I am committed to the 11,000 plus children pre-K-12 in Coppell ISD as the Director of Mathematics, but I'm also committed to teachers and students across the state as I serve as the TASA on iTunes U content lead for mathematics. The 5 things I would like to speak on this afternoon related to my role. In addition, I'm also proudly an Apple Distinguished Educator, and that connects me across the world. So I work to connect my educators across the state and across the world so they're not reinventing the wheel and trying to do the work independently. I want to thank the Texas Education Agency for providing us with these 5 resources to help understand and interpret our Texas standards. To answer the question, how are you sure the content that you're teaching is aligned to the Texas standards? These are my 5 go-to resources. I refer to them within and beyond my district as primary sources. This is straight from TEA. I'm very excited about the supporting information, which is brand new. And so I want to acknowledge that and thank TEA for providing these resources. This is how we interpret and understand our standards and ensure the alignment. These are images from my own school district. These are educators creating anchor charts, and I'm using professional development to build their capacity as instructional leaders. I view my educators as instructional content specialists. The best case scenario is they are as knowledgeable or more knowledgeable than I am in teaching pre-K K-12 content. So I work diligently to build their knowledge so that they can help support my children when they shut their door and they're in their classroom. We use activities such as anchor charts to help understand our standards clustered into big ideas. Our professional development generally follows these 3 bullets. We work to clarify the standards, we work to model practices, and we work to provide sample resources for our educators so they can have the autonomy to design learning experiences most suited for their kiddos. We see professional development in 6 arenas. We provide district level and campus level professional development. We also provide professional development during the school day and after school optional opportunities. We allow educators to learn digitally and virtually in order to meet their needs. And most importantly, we provide coaching and mentoring. We heard from publishers earlier about their support through instructional coaching, and we believe this is the best way to support educators. Just like we support learners in the classroom, we meet them where they are and we bring them to the next level so they can become experts. It is important to note that professional development has dramatically changed. It's changed from 1 week in August, 1 day in October and February to responsive, ongoing mentoring and support from instructional leaders, including content coaches. Years ago, the professional development that you'd receive as a classroom teacher was sitting in one room, almost just designated by seat time. But now that professional development is responsive. It's everywhere through learning on online resources, through journals and publications, and through social media such as Twitter. Most importantly, quality professional development mirrors quality classroom instruction. How do I want my students to learn? Same way I want my teachers to learn. These 6 questions help us guide on whether the professional development we are providing for our educators is the most opportune for them. We ask, did the professional learning experience build capacity for critical thinking and lesson design? Did the professional learning experience develop new lines of inquiry? Are there opportunities for teachers to make their thinking visible, such as in those anchor charts? Are there opportunities to broaden the perspective from conversation with authentic audiences from around the world? Is there an opportunity for teachers to create a contribution such as purposeful work? And does the professional learning experience demo best in the world examples of content and skills? We've adapted these from the Transformational 6 by Alan November. He wrote those for students. But I know that teachers learn like students learn. And if I can provide these learning experiences for the teachers, they will become experts in their field. Let's talk about mathematics. I think about every morning when I was a child, my mother woke me up and said, what are you going to do to change the world? And I think, what do I do to change the world? I picture the homework scenario at the homes of our pre-K-12 students in Texas. And I worry that it is anxiety-inducing and stressful when it comes to mathematics. I worry about the stigma that mathematics has, and I think about this is what I'm going to do to change the world. I'm going to make children successful in mathematics, and I'm going to help them be proud, and most importantly, make math their favorite class to go to every day. So we say, how can we do that? We need to provide them rich tasks in the classroom where they struggle and end successfully. We use tasks that we refer to as low floor and high ceiling. That is, every single child can attempt the problem, situation, or the task based on the knowledge they bring to the table, but they're not limited to just the simple understanding. They can take that understanding to a more beyond the concrete to a more abstract level if they are a strong learner or gifted in mathematics. Rich tasks support mathematical discourse. That is, if you walk into a quality classroom, you will hear not the educator speaking, but the learners talking about math. And we want to support that and provide those opportunities. It should be an authentic experience. It should also use our math process standards, which I am very pleased that we encourage those math process standards and we dual code them in our assessment, that we encourage them to use tools, organize ideas, analyze relationships, and all the other process standards. That's what incorporates rich tasks. Educators have limitless access. That we work to provide clarity and build capacity so they can create and curate quality content. If my educators and educators across the state are equipped to be content specialists, then they can be the lens through which they select their resources. quickly, I'll talk about tasks on iTunes U. I'm so proud that we have almost 10,000 subscribers in our mathematics content. That is 10,000 educators across the state of Texas. I'm going to continue through really quickly. I want to share our scoring rubric. This is how I decide what aligns to the math text. And look at number 1, it's the degree of standards alignment using those resources from TEA. 5 years from now, I hope that we can provide clarity to a vision of high-quality teaching and learning. We can support local school districts as they work to interpret the standards, and we can consider the emphasis on the 8 mathematical teaching practices from our National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lenny Schad. I'm the Chief Information Technology Officer for Houston ISD. We've been on our transformation journey for 3 years in Houston, and I think it's really important that any district, any system that really starts a transformational process grounds themselves on why they're doing that. In HISD, the why we're doing that is this. It's our portrait of a global graduate. We have set expectations for every student in HISD on what we want them to have when they graduate. That's the foundation from which everything we do moves. I think it's really important that we differentiate because a lot of time has been spent today, a lot of conversations talking about technology. And I think 3 years ago, 2 years ago, it was all about technology as a solution in the classroom. In a transformational classroom, in a transformational setting, that is no longer the case. Technology is part of the classroom experience, and I think we have to differentiate that. In HISD, in our transformation, we don't talk about technology, we talk about the classroom experience. This transformation that we've been on, particularly at the high school, is called Power Up. And I think it's important to understand Power Up is more than providing laptops to high school students. It's what we call a 3-legged milk stool. The first part of this, the first leg of the milk stool is talking about technology. We have to have bandwidth, we have to have devices, we have to have an infrastructure. The second leg of this milk stool is what we call our hub. It is our teaching and learning platform. It is the one ecosystem that we want our teachers to go to, and it is the only ecosystem that we want our teachers to go to. It's where we store all of our content, it's where we store all of our resources, it's where our teachers do the planning, and it's where they collaborate. The third leg of this milk stool is our professional development. I don't think you can attack one of these and say you're successful. I think you have to attack all 3 of these together. Solving 1 or 2 will not transform instruction. It will not transform education. And I think we often miss the boat focusing on one of these stools as thinking it is the holy grail. Unless we focus on all 3 of these with equal attention and equal fidelity, you will not transform anything. In fact, I think you'll cause more problems. And we have seen that 3 years in, looking at school districts who have been successful in this, as well as school districts who have not been successful in this. Our strategy is very simple, and truly to transform, it has to be a systemic initiative involving every department in the district. And if it is not involving every district, every department in the district, then once again, I think you're missing critical elements of what we do. So in HISD, if you look at the center of this transformation is school support, school leadership. It is our principals, it is our teachers, and it is the administration at those campuses. If they are not on board and understand exactly what the expectations are, they will never move anything. Surrounding that is technology, it's curriculum, it's professional development, it's communication. The foundation has to be HR and finance. HR from the perspective of what are our hiring criteria now? What are we going to do to change to ensure that we're hiring teachers that understand the culture and the environment and the expectations of HISD? And finance, if we truly are transforming, if you are not having questions at the cabinet level on what are we going to stop doing, then you're not transforming, you're adding on to. And we know that that is never successful. In HISD, we've been able to fund our transformational initiative without adding any dollars to the general fund. It's because we repurposed everything. We went in and evaluated what we were spending, and we decided if it was not part of transformation and supporting transformation, we weren't going to do it, and that includes staff. As we look at content and we talk about that middle leg of our milk stool, the hub, the relationship between technology and curriculum has to change, and it has to change dramatically. Those two cannot operate in silos any longer. When you talk about digital content and interoperability, you can no longer have a curriculum department selecting digital content without having technology buy-in and support for that. Because what you'll end up with is you'll end up with content being purchased that does not meet interoperability standards, that cannot be brought in. So the role and the dynamics between curriculum and technology have to change. And it has to be a very close relationship. Understanding roles and responsibilities will change. Textbook adoption looks differently. You now have different players at the table, now with votes to say whether we pick this. In the past, it used to be curriculum and teachers. When you're talking about interoperability standards, it's a broader audience with equal veto power. When we talk about the hub, again, this is our teaching and learning platform. We do not buy textbooks in HISD at the high school level any longer. All of our content is brought in. When I talk about an ecosystem, we do not go out to the publisher's ecosystem. From our perspective, the minimal interoperability standard is single sign-on, and actually it's one that we don't prefer, because single sign-on means you are now going out to that publisher's ecosystem. In HISD, when we go search our learning object repository and a teacher types in something they want to search, it goes to our learning object repository and pulls result sets from every one of our publishers because we've ingested them into our system. We know not every publisher, not every content provider is there. So again, we're saying our minimal standard is going to be single sign-on, but what we're really focusing on is common cartridge and LTI integration. That's where it really makes everything come to life. We talk about the links, we talk about the videos, and it's inside one ecosystem. When I look at what we need next, I will tell you, it's very difficult for the publishers to take the state TEKS because they're in PDF format. We need the state TEKS to be converted into machine-readable format. Right now, we have to go to a second party to convert the PDFs into machine-readable format. Also, we need to look at how we can better meta tag. I heard IMS Global mentioned earlier today. IMS Global is a great standard that I think is very powerful, and most school districts that are doing this type of work have adopted them. I don't think meta tagging is something that the states need to take on individually. I think it's a product that is developed with IMS Global. They developed the meta tag standards that then is adopted whether you're a Common Core state or you're a TEKS state like Texas. I don't think we need to get into that. What Texas needs to do is we need to get our TEKS standards out of PDF and into machine readable format. That will make it much easier for us to ingest that information. Thank you very much.
So, I hate to ask a dumb question, but what's machine readable format? I'm not sure I know what that is.
So it will allow, it's taking that and being able to put it into the computer so it can ingest it in without having it converted. Right now, a PDF, you can't read that from a programmatic perspective. When it's machine readable, I take that information and I load it into a program, it sorts it and it kicks it out. Right now, the TEKS are just in a PDF format, so I have to go to another vendor. They take our PDF, create it, and convert it into a PDF or into a machine readable format that then we ingest into our standards.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Miller, go ahead and push your button. Make sure I can hear you.
That's very interesting. You did a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Is other districts have the same problem you're talking about? You're going up and down. Yeah. Okay. What is that?
Yeah, I think, it really is an evolution. And again, I know that single sign-on, again, we have a lot of school districts doing that. I think HISD has been very fortunate in that we could put a lot of pressure on the publishers to say, we're not going to buy your textbook unless you put it into Common Cartridge and LTI. And in fact, we did that. We sent a letter to every one of them saying, we will not buy your content unless you do this work. Because we were able to get it in the Common Cartridge and the LTI, we saw some of the issues coming about. And it's been a long year. It has not been an easy year, both from the publisher side and the vendor side. The vendors will tell you, hey, we're ready for this digital content. The fact of the matter is they're not. So it's a learning process, and we're breaking new ground, but it's ground that needs to be broken.
Can TEA do that? Are we capable of doing that?
Doing what?
Doing what you're saying, okay, about the PDF thing.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you guys can do.
Okay. Yeah, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
The staff's back there in the corner. I was just okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Cargill.
So I think that Donna and I tried to visit with you, so we want to come down to Houston and see exactly what you're doing. Speaking of how we learn auditory or visual or whatever, but so I'm just trying to ingest, because some of what you said was kind of Greek to me. Anyway, but tell me, who decides what content to, so you're basically building your own books.
So,
right?
yeah, we take the publishers.
Content from different publishers, so you're building.
Adopted, yeah.
Okay. So who chooses the content? Do you pay teacher teams teachers within HISD?
Yeah, so once we go through an adoption, then what we have done is we've gone back to the publisher saying we do not want the paper copy of this. We want the digital version of what we just adopted. And then the curriculum team works with that publisher to define what the content will look like when we ingest it in. So it goes through the exact same process that we used for the textbooks, right? The adoption, all of that stuff. We're just saying we don't want paper, we want your digital version. So there's really no difference. It's the same review process.
I think what I thought that you might be doing, so I taught biology, so if I like one publisher's section on genetics, I'm going to take that digitally and put it in my book I'm creating. And if I like another publisher's section on photosynthesis in plants and the animal kingdom, I take that. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, so
that
you
is
got to
what-
crawl.
okay.
No, you got to crawl before you run, right? So
Okay,
we're
I'm
still
running.
crawling, right?
Okay.
And ultimately, I'll tell you, that's what we have told the publishers, is I want chapter 2 from you, chapter 3 from you, and chapter 4 from you. And that's what I'm going to put into my
Yeah, I read
learning
an
object.
article about what your vision was, so
Yeah.
I think I'm jumping ahead.
You're ahead. You're where I want to go, but
Where
we're
are
not
you
there yet.
Crawling. Tell me
So
where you are now.
we're
crawling.
taking the textbook
Right.
that we typically had purchased in paper copy. We're ingesting the digital version of that into our learning object repository. So we're bringing the whole book in, which is why the meta tagging is so important when teachers go in. And the search capability is aligned to the TEKS, but a teacher goes in and puts a search criteria in. He or she gets 300 result sets. We want to be able to allow them to get a little bit more granular in their search to really narrow it down. That's the meta tagging layer that I think is the next thing that we need to
well,
focus
you
on.
said that you don't purchase textbooks, but you meant the print copy.
We don't copy.
Okay, well,
yeah,
I was like,
excuse me.
what? Okay,
7
that's
minutes
okay.
isn't a long time, and I had so much to say. So
Dangerous to say with this group. That's a dangerous thing to say. So you are purchasing the digital
Yes.
content and using.
yeah,
okay.
we're just not buying textbooks, and this is our first
Print
year doing this.
textbooks.
Print
Yeah.
textbooks. Yes.
Okay.
That's just for high school, and we're looking at extending that down into the middle schools. As we get more devices, we cascade down. We're hoping to get that out to the middle schools as well. But it's, again, that's one layer of complexity. Certainly professional development. This is a different way for teachers to teach, and it's a different way for the students to get access to information. But I really feel very good about where we're at in our first year of doing this. I think it's the right thing to do. And I think certainly the publishers have realized they can no longer just shake their head and say, yeah, we want to do this. We're actually making them do that, along with a lot of schools in the state and the country.
Numbers.
Yeah.
You got the numbers. Yeah.
Mr. Maynard.
Yeah, I guess if you have a scenario where you're allowing students to bring their own devices, that you're literally leaving the students to their own devices.
Oh, okay. We could have done without that.
But
No, we need it.
but
Have you been studying under Rob Eisler?
Oh my gosh, that's the truth.
so
great.
and I think there's and obviously in Houston ISD that you've got enough critical mass to do what you're doing. I'm just curious, do you ever see that where Houston ISD would partner with another ISD? Or that this is something that could be done, cooperatively with multiple school districts, where they would have enough critical mass where they could actually do what you're doing.
Yeah, certainly, and we've had this conversation, and I've been preaching this for a year. Every opportunity I have, I want people to jump on the bandwagon to start putting this pressure on publishers. And so, yeah, those are conversations that we have. This is going on across the country. It's getting publishers and vendors to embrace IMS global standards and create these LTI or common cartridge packages that we can ingest. And the more people we get on board, the quicker we can get this done. And so, yeah, we're having those conversations. And I don't think size is a limitation at all of school districts. It's more about what systems do they have in place. Does their current LMS or curriculum management system, does it have the capability to ingest this content and store it? Those are the things that have to be thought through before you ever go down this path. And we put in a new teaching and learning platform year one of our Power Up initiative because we knew those three legs of that milk stool, we had to have all of that in place.
Just out of curiosity, and you referenced your local adoption process, just kind of curious how that works with the respective school district to the extent that the public is engaged in that in terms of the openness and transparency of that process. Is that something that y'all do?
Sure. Are you asking, do we publicize that we're adopting? And
Right. In other words, does the public have access to the texts
To the
that you are
resources.
considering? Yeah.
If they so choose, I'm in a unique school district in that we are the community.
I've been
And
to your school district, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been to your school, yeah.
So our folks moved to White Oak because of the openness that we have in our school district. Each of our teachers have classroom blogs where they daily maintain what's going on in the classroom. And our secondary teachers also have a checklist on the side of each of the standards for their class. And you can see the standard that's been covered, how many times it's been covered. If you mouse over it, you can actually see what the standard truly is. So they're used to that in our district. Yes, sir.
We cover our textbook, our digital materials adoptions through our campus planning committee and our district decision committee as well. So, and that includes parents and community members.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Really great. What was that?
I was just going to tell Mary, we need you.
Thank you.
We're discussing it on Thursday, so before you leave, can I get your contact?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.